We haven't sung it enough in the 6 months. But now we sing it and we have proof. And my prayer partner's always telling me, trust in myself and believe. There was a boss and he asked one of his employees, he says, do you believe in life after death? And the employee thought about it, and he thought, well, I've never been asked that before. And he kind of considered for a second. He said, well, yes, I do. And his boss said, well, that's a good thing, because when you went to your grandmother's funeral yesterday, she came by to see you. Just takes a while. You know, how many of you had somebody in the hospital? And you know that hospital regulation says that you cannot walk out. You might walk in, but you're not going to walk out. And there was a man sitting on the side of the bed. He was dressed. There was a suitcase. And here comes the nurse in with the wheelchair. And she said, sir, if you'll get right in. He said, but I don't need the wheelchair. She said, sir, it's the rule. You have to get in. But I don't, sir, get in the wheelchair. So he got in the wheelchair. She gets him down to the front door, and she said, is your wife picking you up? And he says, well, last time I saw her, she was in the bathroom putting on clothes and getting out of her hospital gown. A little more obvious.
You got to be awake this morning.
Can we have the August affirmation? Is that anywhere close? This is in your little flyer. And you can read along, or if you can see it, or if you can read it. As I intentionally court the divine presence, I pierce the veil of separation and experience myself as an individualized center of God consciousness. I am one with the power of God, and it flows through me now. It is the presence of my real and true self. I am forever one with life. I am forever one with love. So we started out talking about being mystics and about becoming mystics. And I told you that I started with this little quote out of This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes. There is that within me which knows I'm not only one with this power is actually flowing through me now. I am not only unified with the divine presence around me, this presence is my presence. It is the presence of my real and true self. I am forever one with life. And so here's where we're going off the script. So I heard Stoney's song. Look in the mirror and see what I see. And every day you and I look in the mirror. Even if it's not the physical mirror on the wall, we look in the mirror of our minds about ourselves. And we see something there. And we use words to describe that something. I don't know what words you use. I use sometimes words like, oh, there's a gray hair showing. A new little wrinkle. Could use a little facelift. Wild hair. Bad head. I don't know. What other words you use when you look in the mirror? I want you to think about the time, and we've all had this time, where you suddenly knew your oneness with God, where you felt that presence of God, that you knew that there was something more to you than just the little gray hairs. When you knew there was something more than the skin. Can you think about a time where you had that realization? And when you had that realization and you looked out, what did you see? You saw God. Everywhere you looked, didn't things kind of glisten and have a radiance and have a new brilliance, a new shine? Can you remember that? Maybe you can feel that in this moment today. I don't know. Sometimes on Sunday morning, I can't get there because I'm too busy worried about, well, is there a misprint in the flyer? What's my talk going to be about? And am I going to remember what I'm supposed to say? And is my joke funny? And do my clothes match? And, all of that stuff. But there is a part of us that is so much more. We talked about that Paul said, put on the mind that was in Christ Jesus. And we talked about putting on the I am, about wrapping ourselves in the I am divine. The I amness. And last week we talked about, I think it was last week, we talked about that the place where we get to know that, and the place that Anne was leading us to in the meditation, was that place inside. That place inside where our mind has stopped working. Now, it hadn't totally stopped working. It keeps throwing out spurious thoughts. But if we're there long enough, there's less thought about the extra 5 pounds, the gray hair, the project that needs to be done, the stain in the carpet. All of the things that line up into what we call the circumstances of our lives. And we get to that place where it's still, and we have that inner knowing that there is that presence of the divine. I read at one time in Joel Goldsmith, I do not know which book. I have looked for it. Someone told me they didn't think it was Joel Goldsmith. I swear this was Joel Goldsmith. But I read, some author said that we are like the actor, the rich and famous, wealthy actor who is playing the part of a pauper beggar on stage. That on stage we're dressed as a pauper and a beggar, and the play goes on so long that one day we walk off the stage as the pauper and the beggar, and we walk out into life forgetting that we're the actor. And that's what's happened to you and I. There is this divine presence in us. We are the beloved creation of the Creator, who created us so that we could experience life. And we have been out here so long experiencing life that we have forgotten that we're part of creation, that we're part of the Creator, that we're the Creator's beloved, that we are the created. Now, last week, my dear, or a week before last, my dear beloved Jane said, I love you so much because you have never said you are God. And I thought, well, it's time to change that. So what I'm saying is, it is time to know ourselves as God. Is that okay? Because that's what we're here for. That's what awakening is all about, is to have those moments of clarity when things glisten, where our world is peachy keen, and no matter what's going on, it's okay. Because we're here as the Creator, creating experiences and loving every bit of it. And we, in our humanness, in our ego state of mind, begin to call it good, not so good, good, bad, good, horrible, wonderful. And yet, there is fun and experience in all of it. And because of that, if we can get a hold of that idea that we are here to experience life, if we're here, what did Jesus say? He came that we might have life and have it abundantly. We're here to experience everything and to experience it in abundance. To experience it with joy and love and peace. It's my knowledge in here that knows when I know who I am peaceful, loving, joyful, trusting, believing. And when I'm out here playing Beth and I forget, I'm worried about the banker. A mystic is not a mysterious person, but one who has a deep inner sense of life and of his or her unity with the whole. In the book, Your Faith is Your Fortune, the author wrote, consciously claim ourselves to be that which we seek. We too will know the status of true mystic. A mystic is one who senses the atmosphere of God in, as, around, and through all, and knows that as infinite as is God, God is equally very personal to all who feel the indwelling presence. So my desire is for us to court that divine presence, to know who we are. Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, wrote this in Talks on Truth. We see only form and make God a personal being located in a city of dimensions. The belief of separateness leads to ignorance, because all intelligence is derived from one divine mind. And when the soul thinks itself something alone, it cuts itself off in consciousness from the fount of inspiration. When we believe ourselves to be separate from our source, we lose sight of the divine harmony. We are like a musical note standing alone, looking upon other notes but having no definite place upon the great staff of nature, the grand symphony of life. And I think about our music this morning. It was beautiful because it was put together. It was beautiful because of the whole. Your song was beautiful. because it spoke truth, and it hit a chord in here. Did it not hit a chord in you? Didn't everything we sang this morning have something in you? It touched you at some place. And the way I know that that happens is that there is this divine energy that happens around church. I don't know how it happens. Been here 15 years and I still do not understand. I still cannot explain. But I know that it happens. That in some mystical, magical way, because I am not so clear about what I'm going to do on Sunday that I might tell you in advance. "8:30 this morning." And yet, a couple of years ago, Stoney wrote a song with some help from Deborah and Vashti that worked perfectly with this morning and with what I was feeling and what I was thinking. And then I have the doubt to say, how did that happen? There is that divine that knows 2 years ago what song needed to be sung this Sunday morning. And when I can trust that, and when I can believe that, and when I'm one with the God within, and know that all is well, then my life does sparkle. And that's what I want to invite you to. Now, I handed you out some homework when you came in. And I've called it the ultimate fast. Because I keep seeing on television, you'll get it, it's just a little piece of paper. It's nothing you haven't seen or known before. This little piece of paper has just some statements on it. And I see on television all these ads for the right thing to eat and the right diet. And I'm going to suggest that we don't need to fast from food, but we need to fast from judging yourself and others and feast on the great I am dwelling in all of us. We need to fast from apparent darkness and feast on the reality of life. We need to fast from pessimism and feast on optimism. Fast from thoughts of illness and feast on the wholeness of God. Fast from words that pollute and feast on phrases or words that purify. Fast from anger and feast on understanding. Fast from worry and feast on divine providence. Fast from unrelenting pressures and feast on unceasing prayer. Fast from complaining, feast on appreciation. Fast from hospitality, Fast from hostility, feast on non-resistance. Fast from bitterness, feast on forgiveness. Fast from anxiety, feast on hope. Fast from ego and feast on love. That if we did that, if we did all those things, and if we go inside and spend more time inside, we too will have that realization that we're mystic. And we'll have that realization more and more often. I wish I could say that I got it. I have it on and it's always on. Not so. I have it on in divine moments. And you too will have it on in divine moments. And I believe that our mission is to help each other remember to have divine moments, to remember to step awake, to step up and to step out. I know when I go back to refer to a story I've told before, I told this in this series, I think it was maybe 3 weeks ago, I told you the story about the person who was journeying to become a mystic. And he went on a journey, and as he went along, he gathered people who thought it would be a good idea. Remember that? And they all were going, and they went over mountains, and they went over through valleys, and they met hardships, and finally they get to the mountaintop. And they see this great table, and there were all the mystics seated there, and they were going to finally find out everything they needed to know. And they walked up to the table, and they saw that the robes were empty. And they had the realization that they were to put those robes on. See, they'd been on the journey. And you and I have been on the journey. And today, in this moment, you and I can put the robes on. It's our choice. It is our choice. I remember the little story about the little child who kept wanting to go in and be with their new baby brother, and the parents were kind of a little bit, well, why does she want to be alone with the baby? You know, maybe she's too young. She was about 3 years old, and they had the baby monitor on. They heard her go in, and they heard her tell her baby brother, "Remind me of who I am before I forget." Today we're here to remember who we are and to remind each other. So my intention is for you to know yourselves as the divine, to know yourselves as God. And so I would invite you to turn to someone and say, know yourself as God. There were women taking in a Bible study, and they were studying a verse in Malachi 3:3. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. And the women in the Bible study group were puzzled, and they didn't know what it meant. And one of the women volunteered to find out more about purifying silver. So she went to a jeweler who made things with silver, and she said, do you actually put the silver in the fire? And he said, oh yes, we put it in the fire to burn and get rid of the impurities. And she said, well, do you have to watch it? And he says, yes, we have to watch it because we could ruin it. And she said, well, how do you know it's silver? And how do you know when it's ready? And the jeweler said, I know it's ready when I can see my face in the silver. So this week, you're looking in the mirror, look for the divine. Because some of you are ready to see it. Thank you.